Did you get enough tantrum?
I did get enough tantrum, thank you.
I did.
Tantrum!
My eyes are about to crawl out of my skull here.
And I have to pee again.
Oh, God. What are you, Lily? So, Chris, I figured before we get into Season 2, let's take a look back at Season 1.
Let's.
And there were 2 standout episodes of, like, the top 5 most popular episodes among our listeners, based on downloads.
Right.
And I want to focus on those 2 because they're pretty interesting episodes, and also I just read about the 80-20 principle.
Well, what is the 80-20 principle?
Well, let's say 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your sources. Then you should reinvest 80% of your company's wealth into that 20% source.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
So in other words, you guys really like these ones, so we're doing them again.
Right, double down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to Him Yim Superfans, folks. This is our best of Season 1 doubleheader. We're going to talk about OK Awesome and Drumroll, please. First up, we're talking about OK Awesome.
Kind of surprisingly made the top 5 of our most listened to or downloaded episodes, and that's the one that you wanted to revisit, is that right?
Yeah, it's like episode 5. It's very early in Season 1, and I think it might be one of the more popular ones because it's just fun. There's no stakes in this one. They're just going out to a club and having fun.
Yep, I remember that one. I got Barney's shirt. He doesn't wear a tie. You know, that kind of stuff. Tin Man. All sorts of things.
A little behind-the-scenes info for our listeners. If you want, go back and re-listen to OK Awesome, the podcast, the opening chatter we had about the feedback we were getting, completely made up.
That was my opinion of our feedback. It was a little too early to have gotten feedback, really, at that point. So now, if you do want to give feedback on our banter, definitely let us know. If you want to hear more about James's cock and ball areas, like, the reason why I cracked up so much when you said that is because, like, I sort of envisioned this as being like, like a take this very seriously podcast, like real business related, the kind of thing where we don't say cock and balls ever. And it threw me off so much that you did it. I was like, well, let's just run with it. Now I apparently have no problem with it.
Well, yeah, it became my goal early in the podcast to try to crack you up.
Right. Well, you certainly succeeded more than once.
You really liked the coat check girl. I really liked the coat check girl. But you had a little story about the coat check girl.
Yeah, early on, actually, when we were working on the podcast, it was before OK Awesome, but I knew it was coming up. I was out at a club. I don't go to them very often, but I went, and it was winter, and it was very warm in the club, and I was like, gosh, I really wish there was someplace I could put my coat where it wouldn't get stolen. But I really don't want to hold on to it, and I don't really want to put it on this chair and then leave, because I think my coat is going to leave, because it's not super nice, but I would steal it if I was a stealing. Anyway, so I'm saying, gosh, I wish there was a place that I could check my coat. And well, why don't you check it at the coat check?
Here's the coat check.
And we don't live in a place where this is super common to have coat check, and so
the only place I've seen it before is that one bar where they're afraid people were holding weapons.
Right, so they want your coat so that you don't have your knife or your gun on you. So I go up to this coat check, and there is a nice looking coat check lady, and I'm thinking to myself, gosh, I really need to get a picture with her for the podcast. So I asked real nice, and she said yes. And so I have this selfie with her. You can go back to the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/group/HimYimSuperfans, and take a look there. It's a picture of me with our very own coat check girl.
Yeah.
So, James Hamilton, why did you pick OK Awesome?
Well, I like it because it's the club episode. There's a lot of fun things going on. There's, I have a crazy fan theory that I'm still a real fan of. The OK is a vampire club theory.
Right, I remember that one.
Also, Sam Levine is in it.
Right.
He's no stranger to podcasts. If you listen to podcasts, listen to Doug Loves Movies or the Kevin Pollak Chat Show, and he's a frequent guest on Doug Loves Movies. This guy really knows movies.
Okay. He probably watches a lot more movies than me then. But yeah, I'll have to check those out.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things in this episode. We talk about first, there's the first sort of revertigo. Like, they don't use that word, but they're all sort of acting a little younger than they usually are. There's frickin' tannins.
Yep, that's hard to forget.
The first time I mentioned Buffy. And also, a little bit more of the behind-the-scenes stuff that I really liked was I put a little more effort into some jokes with the editing. Like, there's a part where we talk about the mysterious substance that Marshall must have tried in the bathroom.
Right, you edited it with some beeps so that we didn't actually say cocaine or what would be most likely ecstasy.
Or then amphetamine.
Right, are you going to beep these again?
Maybe. And all season we were talking about, when did Lily make this decision to leave?
Yeah.
And this episode, okay, awesome, there's this nice scene outside where Robin and Lily are talking. They're taking a pee on Julia Roberts in the gutter, and Robin says, "You can go wherever you want, like San Francisco, abandon your husband." She didn't say that second part, but I still think that might have been the beginning of Lily's decision making.
Yeah, I think it could be the beginning, or it could be one extra, push in that direction. I don't know which one, but yes, it's definitely some evidence there that Robin saying that has some influence on Lily making her decision to leave. This is also an episode where I had to later on recant, where I said that Ted talks about how he doesn't like New Year's Eve, and I was like, but then why does he make such a big deal about it in the limo? It turns out, actually, upon rewatching the limo, he does dislike New Year's Eve. He was trying so hard to make it good because he knows that if you don't, that it stinks.
Yeah.
So
he even ended up having kind of a shitty New Year's.
Yeah, he kind of did. I mean, he still got his kiss with Robin, but that was about it.
Yeah.
His date left him.
Yeah, his midnight kiss was getting kicked out of the limo he had bought.
Right.
This episode ties into a season 7 episode called The Time Travelers.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk about OK Awesome, because I feel like I said plenty about it when we talked about it the first time, but I want to talk about my crazy fan theory from pretty much all of season 1, is that consciously or unconsciously, and most likely the latter, Ted is sabotaging himself as far as relationships go, even up to and including the fact that dating Robin is a terrible idea for him and his wants and needs. So, we've got the coat check girl from The Time Travelers. And fans, I would like you to travel through time with us. Doodly-doo, 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 doodly-doo. So the year is 2013. It's 7 years since the gang went to OK. Coat check girl walks into McLaren's and sits down at the bar. So 20 years from now, Ted, as if you've watched Time Travelers, there's a bunch of 20 years from now, 20 minutes from now, 20 hours from now, etc. Teds and Barneys that eventually sing a song. It's pretty awesome. Listen to that again, still like it. So 20 years from now, Ted says that Coat Check Girl is from the dance club where Barney grinded with his cousin. And 20 years from now, Barney says that 20 years from now, Ted won't let anyone forget about that. So he's never going to let that one go.
Yeah, so you didn't listen to the italics.
Right, the italics. Yeah, never going to speak about this again. And you wanted italics to come back, and it didn't. And, Ted wasn't going to listen anyway, apparently. No. So current Ted says, I always meant to go back to that club and get her number, but I didn't. And I think this strongly reinforces my theory about Ted sabotaging himself. Like, I swear, he had her number, or he had a planned date, but apparently he didn't get her number and stood her up for their supposed date that they were going to have. He never went back to OK, or he went back to OK and it was her night off, or she no longer worked there, or OK was bought by someone else and was renamed, which seems to happen with the clubs in How I Met Your Mother universe. At any rate, Ted didn't get her number, but they hit it off so well back at OK, but he didn't even go on a date with her to find out if something could happen because, like I said, I feel like Ted is sabotaging, and he's a sabotaging so-and-so, and even going after Robin, like I said, is kind of sabotage.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised he didn't get her number either, because I got the impression that he had already set up a date by the time he was putting on all the coats.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the reason he didn't go back and date her is either he decided later that he really wants to focus on Robin or someone else, or she's dead.
that car that keeps killing people.
Yeah.
It's possible that she's dead, but I think that she actually was at McLaren's, and that's like the only true thing about that night.
Yeah.
So as Ted's sitting at McLaren's, we find out later that he's actually sitting alone with one ticket to Robots vs. Wrestlers because there's no one to go with him. There's no Barney, no Minnesota Tidal Wave, no drink called the Robin Scherbatsky, or if there was, that all happened before. Ted is alone at the bar, but possibly the only real thing that happened that night from the episode is Coat Jet Girl coming into McLaren's. But Ted, at that point, is feeling so sorry for himself that he manifests a 20 months from now Coat Check Girl to pull him away from talking to present-day Coat Check Girl.
It's his manifestation of his low self-esteem, essentially.
Yes, and if you remember from the Love Solutions episode, I feel like Catherine Mannheim's character at the end of that is like a manifestation of like Ted's like negative thoughts. Yeah. And that Ted has to like challenge them. It's almost like a metaphorical thing.
That one, I mean, he's walking into the dark office. It's like literally walking into the dark part of his mind.
Yeah, and I feel like that this is what's going on, is that Coat Check Girl actually shows up to McLaren's, but Ted's in such a funk that he manifests a 20 months from now Coat Check Girl. So let's get into that. There are actually 2 20 months from now Coat Check Girls, and she says that these are the only 2 possibilities. And I just want to say in life, there are almost never only 2 possibilities. But think about that. There is no universe, according to her, in which Ted and Coat Check Girl are happy. And we already know that 20 months from now Coat Check Girls aren't real. Like, she says it'll end one of 2 ways. He'll get sick of her, or she'll get sick of him.
Yeah, that whole, like, binary choice thing is so rarely, I think, true. It's so often a sign of distorted thinking.
Right. So Ted asks 20 months from now Coat Check Girl. I mind you, he's asking himself, because this is definitely something that he's created in his mind. Right. Just like Barney at the table and the 20 years from now Barney. These are all in his head, and we know that to be true. So he asks 20 months from now Coat Check Girl, it's doomed completely? One of us is guaranteed to get sick of the other and call it quits? And she responds with, you've been dating for a long time, Ted. Has it ever gone any other way? Mm-hmm. And this is nothing but distorted thinking, like you're talking about. You could go lots of different ways, but Ted at this point doesn't believe that. So real Coat Check Girl leaves. And if Ted hadn't been in such a bad place, you never know what could have happened if he had, talked to Coat Check Girl that night. I mean, like, maybe nothing would have happened, but maybe something.
This whole, the Coat Check Girl and Ted sort of not being in the right place for each other at the right time, and then showing up later in each other's lives, but still not being in the right place, it reminds me of the themes of timing that we keep getting in this series, but here it's played pretty much for the inverse, meaning Ted was perfect for Coat Check Girl for a brief time when he was at the club and probably shortly after. At that point he was much younger, he had a lot less responsibilities, he was a lot more carefree. He was exactly the kind of man that Coat Check Girl was looking for at that time.
The kind that would spontaneously put on 15 coats, or rather, like, how many coats do you think I can put on? Yeah, which she thought was hilarious.
Yeah, the kind of guy who could charm her at the club.
Right.
But by the time The Time Travelers airs, Ted's much older. He's got this job at Columbia. He's a professor. He's had all these other relationships that have all ended in some sort of negative way for him, and so he's much more cynical. So it could be that the Coat Check Girl is also perfect for him at this point, but he's not perfect for her.
Yeah, that's entirely likely, and that does go back to the themes that you're talking about, which is like chemistry. Like, if you have the chemistry, what's the only other thing that you need? And it's timing, and until Ted meets Tracy, timing is kind of a bitch.
Yeah, and you said chemistry, that's the perfect word. Go back and watch OK Awesome and these scenes they have in the Coat Check room. They have beautiful chemistry.
That's right.
They're just so... They're a great couple.
And we'll never know. I mean, it all works out for Ted and it's fine. But it's the kind of thing where, like, I think that there are other ways that this could have worked out, happily for Ted. there wasn't only one possibility. Like we're talking about like binary.
Right.
It's not like Tracy is the only one. Otherwise, Ted dies alone, bald, buried under a pile of newspapers in his apartment.
And empty cinnamon apple desserts.
Yes. No, he likes the cinnamon.
Yeah.
But no, I think that there's many possibilities for Ted. He doesn't believe that at this point in the Time Travelers. He probably did believe it. Actually, maybe he thought that there were too many options.
Yeah.
In OK Awesome.
Maybe that was his why. I'm not going to go back to Coke Check Girl because there's 10 other hot women I've met since then.
Yeah, that could be. And then by season 7, or actually rather season 8, when the Time Travelers is like he's much more despondent, he's a little beaten down.
Just doesn't have the energy.
No. So those are my thoughts on Coat Check Girl, and that's what I really wanted to focus on talking about OK Awesome, because she was my favorite part. And I'm still sorry, Jayma Mays, that I didn't say that you were my favorite part of OK Awesome. I still haven't forgiven myself. I'm still every day.
She's still not talking to you.
Yes, right. She won't return my calls or my tweets.
No.
So, James, what else do you have for this episode?
Well, that's it. I just want to give a little teaser for some video content we're going to work on this coming season. I put together a little clip of OK Awesome, the Vampire Club. I think you're going to like it. Just check out the Facebook page. We'll link to it.
Facebook.com/groups/Himium-Supervillains.
Yep. Okay, awesome, folks. One of the other episodes from Season 1 that we want to feature is Drumroll, Please. This is the one that Ashley Williams actually listened to and retweeted. So thanks again, Ashley, if you're, for some reason, listening to this one.
Yeah, we'll have to tweet this one at her again. Just we kind of have to.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed. But thank you anyway. Chris, tell me about Drumroll, Please.
Well, one, separate from Ashley retweeting this episode, which probably is why we got so many listens and downloads. It was a good episode.
It's one of our best.
And yeah, exactly. It's like I'm really proud of like what we covered when we talked about it. It stands alone in its goodness, regardless if somebody who was actually in the episode retweets it or not.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I picked this one is because of the alternate universe that I was talking about, like that theory that I love that.
Universe 13.
Yeah, Universe 13. If the show had been canceled, it would have ended with episode 13, and Victoria would be the mother. So I wanted to like sort of go down that rabbit hole with you and to see how far we can take that. I didn't come up with a lot, so I want to see like what your ideas are on this as well. If we're saying that Ted and Victoria end up that she's the mother, that doesn't explain how things end. Unless you get some sort of montage. Or like what they did with the finale episode where we get to like flash forward quite a bit. So Ted and Victoria end up together. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you join us, fans, as we go down the rabbit hole into the Parallel Universe 13.
You're entering the vicinity of an area adjacent to a location. The kind of place where there might be a monster or some kind of weird mirror. These are just examples. It could also be something much better. Prepare to enter the scary door.
So Ted and Victoria end up together. She's the mother. So she's still going to get offered the dessert scholarship in Germany. So let's do a little choose your own adventure.
You think you can pull this off?
I might. We'll find out. So does Ted go with her or not?
Yes, he does.
Okay, so Ted goes with her. So Ted learns German, and he makes some new friends there. He's able to give Marshall, Lily, and Robin advice on how to live abroad when that happens for them.
He sings Dankeschön during a parade.
Yeah, and so that, that helps. Actually, he doesn't know German, because when he talks to Klaus, he only knows the obvious words like kindergarten. But yeah, he learns some German, sings some Dankeschön. The advice is useful. It makes living abroad easier for Robin and Marshall and Lily when that happens. They do all eventually end up back in the U.S. at the same time, and they're fairly close.
Yeah.
Maybe not as close as if Ted had stayed, because he was probably going to be gone for a few years, and it's not quite the same. So what do you think happens after that?
Well, either Ted and Victoria get married, and they have these two kids, Luke and Penny, and then Victoria gets sick and dies when her kids are 4 and 6 years old. That's one possibility.
That's awful. That's super fatalistic.
Yeah.
That no matter who Ted ends up with, she is destined to die.
Well, that's,
Well, I mean, at a young age.
Yeah, well, that's...
Everyone dies.
Yeah, like the car that goes around killing people's loved ones,
Right.
cancer is a trans-dimensional evil demon.
Okay, well, what else you got?
All right, so theory number 2 is Victoria and Ted move to Germany, where Ted is a fish out of water and on his own, for the most part, because Victoria will be in school
Right.
12 hours a day and asleep for 8.
Yes.
And he's in a foreign country for the first time, and he discovers he's not as smart or worldly as douchey college Ted thought he was.
Right, he only thought he was.
Yeah, so he learns this crash course in humility and self-reliance that I think he lacks throughout the series because he's never had this experience before. He went from home to college, and throughout college and all his 20s, he always had a Marshall to rely on. So now he's in another country on his own, trying to make it work. I think he steps up and he becomes a better man.
Okay. I like that because he grows as a person and it gives him an excuse to do so instead of what most of the show is gives Ted an excuse not to grow as a person.
Yeah, maybe he'll get into soccer.
In general, yeah, maybe he would be into soccer. It's at least worth a try. I actually like, if we're going to do this, that the show in this parallel universe doesn't actually pick up where it's like season 1 picks up. It actually picks up when episode 13 is the first episode
Right.
of that series.
The whole sitcom is the fish out of water sitcom,
Yeah.
the American in Germany.
He meets Victoria. Well, Victoria's just as much a part of it, I would say. But a couple meets and they hit it off right away. And it's been a few months, and she gets offered a job in Germany. Actually, I think that's where it starts, and you have to flash back to the other stuff to make it make sense. But we are 2 Americans that just moved to Germany, and have that be it. And Ted's storyline is he grows as a person. I don't know what Victoria's up to, but she's fulfilling her career goals.
Yeah.
And then their challenges are gonna be relationship because it's too new. That's really challenging to move somewhere when a relationship is young anyway, let alone to a country where you both don't speak the language. Maybe Victoria does, actually. Don't think that's revealed. Fans, check on that one for me if Victoria knows German or not. She probably doesn't know it, super well. I don't think, she studied abroad in Germany and...
Probably knows the baking terms.
Right, yes, exactly. To get offered the scholarship at all. But that's where you start that series, is the 2 fish out of water in another country. And then you get to learn about German. If you do it respectfully, then you actually get to learn about, the German culture. If you do it, irreverently, then you're constantly making fun of another culture and being like, yay, America.
Yeah.
Just the show that Barney would make.
Right.
If he was making the show. But that's what I think. I think that should be the end of our rabbit hole. Victoria's the mother.
Yeah, I kind of like that. So out of the rabbit hole we come.
Ah! This is not... Well, lucky I know how to read Braille. Oh! Hey, look at that weird mirror. Bam!
Chris, one of the other things I really love about this episode of the podcast is it's my chance to get real.
Yeah.
And share that story I had about an ex-girlfriend who broke up with me in August, and then the show had an episode in September that was Ted maybe getting back together with his lost love. And I'm just so glad that I was able to put my thoughts and feelings out there in a way that other people could relate. I know you really related to it, and you were supportive in me sharing some more of these personal things in the podcast. So I really appreciated doing that. And I hope people liked it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we do really like about doing this is being able to get personal, and we hope that we put that out there. One, that is for us, to sort of get things off our chest and sort of put things out in the universe. But 2, we hope that you have similar experiences because most of life is going to be comprised of similar experiences that we can all relate to.
Yeah.
We're all human. We all have human experiences. So that's one of the things that we've enjoyed, and I do remember that from this episode that you used that opportunity to talk about something, and I'm sure that other people can relate to that as well with this show or possibly with other ones.
Yeah. So great performances from us, but also great performances from Josh Radnor and Ashley Williams, especially in this ending scene, but throughout the series. There was when Robin was at the reception secretly, and she spotted the two of them almost kissing.
Right. Robin's seeing the drum roll. We both agreed in the original Drumroll Please podcast, we said that Robin had the decision made for her about that she had to tell Ted to go find Victoria, and that hasn't changed. I watched it again, and I think that there's no way Robin could have said at that point that she had feelings for Ted and that he shouldn't go find Victoria at the Buttercup Bakery. There's no way. I can't wrap my mind around a way where that makes sense, socially, that we would find that acceptable.
Right.
But could you imagine, for a moment, how much simpler things would have been if she just says it in that moment? How much less hurt there would have been for those three in this season?
Yeah, so back to the parallel universe.
I guess.
So,
but,
I would guess that Ted would be happy at first, and he would forget about Victoria. He'd start dating Robin right away. But anytime that Robin said something that he didn't like, or she left her gun out or something, there would be this thought in Ted's mind, I wonder if that Victoria Baker chick is still at that bakery.
Right, he can still go find her. Yeah. He still knows where that bakery is.
Yeah, or if I hadn't gotten together with Robin, maybe things would have been better with that other woman.
Right. Yeah, so he always has more options. I also wonder if Ted didn't need to colossally screw up in Nothing Good Happens After 2 a.m. to grow as a person and realize, you know what, I can never do that again. I've learned, I did it, I found out that hurt me and two other people that I care about, and I learned a lesson.
Yeah. So we both agreed on, Robin can't say, Ted, date me instead. But we disagreed on this thing where Victoria has Ted close his eyes and she just sort of disappears. I thought it was wonderful. You didn't think so. Did you change your mind?
I did not. Actually, I maintain that Victoria disappearing or Ted seeing her leave are the exact same thing in the big picture. I mean, one is more romantic than the other, for sure, and got this sort of ethereal ghost quality, and there's that whole Victoria is a ghost thing, or a poltergeist, or a poultrygeist thing, if she were a chicken. No, my stance hasn't changed. He's still going to find her. Whether she disappears or he watches her leave at the back door, then he's still going to go looking for her the next day. So it's the same.
Him going and looking for her ruins the magic. But if he didn't, I still think her magically disappearing was better.
All right.
Moving on.
Yeah. Marshall sleeping in the back of the cab. I only noticed it because we were doing this podcast and I had watched the episode so many times that I sort of saw it out of the corner of my eye. And then when I rewinded it to watch it again, it's magical. It was Ted's giving his heartfelt monologue, and if you're ignoring it because it's the fourth time that you've heard it, just like it's the 100th time that Marshall's heard some sappy monologue about love and growing old and whatever. He's had a long day and he drank many beers, as they already have claimed that they have. He's falling asleep in the backseat of the cab, and it's awesome that it's happening.
Yeah, I love any time they put three of the characters in the back of a cab because they're just sort of scrunched together.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we did miss, Chris, in the few months since we published this episode is we haven't made it to Foxy Boxing.
We have not. Have you looked into Foxy Boxing as a possibility? Where is the closest Foxy Boxing?
I have, but I don't think we would want to go to any of them.
Oh, okay. Are they neither foxy nor good at boxing?
I think we might not meet the entrance requirements. We don't have enough tattoos.
Oh, I see. We'd be out of place.
Or enough motorcycles.
Fish out of water. Yeah, well, right. We don't have enough motorcycles. Something else I wanted to say that we didn't say last time. Victoria could have easily found Ted. Something I was thinking about as I was watching this. All the effort that Ted had to go through. And then I put it on Victoria's side of things, from her perspective. If she had wanted to find Ted, she has more information to work with because she saw Barney. She could call Claudia and be like, hey, Claudia, you had two guys at your wedding. Can you put me in touch with either one of them? They said something about wanting a cake from me, and I didn't get their information. We didn't even have to tell them, why. Tell her why.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, yeah, it was the blonde guy or the guy with the dark hair. The one went home with the second hottest bridesmaid. You know your bridesmaids. Yeah. Which one was the second hottest?
Right.
Tanya, and you know, Barney made a big deal about it right in front of her. So like she could have easily found Ted and chose not to, or at least not the very next day. Well, she had to work. But anyway, I thought it was interesting that she could find Ted, chose not to, and I'm wondering if that was like more romantic to her to be found, to be chased, than to do the chasing.
My first reaction is she doesn't go chasing because she's the woman and she expects to be chased.
Yeah, I mean, that was the easiest thing that I came up with, is that she doesn't do that. I mean, there could be other reasons. Does she had to work? Like, she can't just call off to go chase across New York for some guy?
Those cupcakes aren't going to ice themselves.
Right, she's up there super late on a Sunday night icing cupcakes, so maybe she was planning on doing it on Monday, her day off, and just hadn't gotten to it yet. Could be because she's a woman and she has those sort of chivalry ideas in her mind, like, well, the man does the chasing, and they like that, and I like being chased, so why not just have it go that route? She seems a little more feminist than that in later episodes, but again, we don't know. But I thought it was interesting, and I thought that you fans should have that information rolling around in your head.
So that's it for Drumroll, please. Got anything else, Chris?
Well, next week is going to be Season 2, Episode 1. We're going to shake things up with the format a little bit. What were your thoughts on this? We haven't done a best-of episode. I don't know, did you like it? Is there anything that you would rather see differently?
Yeah, share your thoughts with us at facebook.com/groups/HimiumSuperfans, or just tweet him at Himium_James.
So we appreciate you listening.
Thanks. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.
So, James, what other things could have happened in the Parallel Universe 13?
Well, I was just thinking of Victoria's dialogue when she's introducing herself, and she says, "I have a solution. The thing that always screws it up is the next day. Why don't we cut that part out?" And Ted says, "What?" And Victoria says, "Let's dance, have a good time, and then when it's all over, we kill each other." Dun dun dun.
That's jacked up. So they make a romantic suicide pact.
Yes.
That after they have their lovely evening, they'll go to the piano room and they'll figure out some way to murder each other at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's jacked up, dude.
It will be the most romantic night of their lives.
The Scary Door.